Ciao, this is Mark Marcantonio. Going to show you a little bit of maintenance work that I'm doing on my 2008 Ranger Z20 boat trailer. I had a bearing go out on me the other day and had to have it replaced at a Big O tire center when I was out on the road. So now I'm going to go ahead and replace the other three bearings on my other three wheels that haven't been replaced. I've had this boat for 17 years now with the oil bath hubs, and they've held up beautifully all that time. If you maintain and take care to make sure that you've always got oil level inside the hubs, you won't have a problem with the bearings. I ended up getting caught on a long trip, and apparently my rear seal leaked out the oil that was in the one hub, so I did lose the bearing on one. And now I'm going to just go ahead and replace the other three just to be on the safe side. Actually, I've already replaced them, and I want to show you a problem that I've encountered on one. Okay, this is my starboard hub on my boat trailer, and I've replaced the bearings, refilled it with oil, and I want you to listen to the noise that it makes. Apparently it's got a bad bearing inside. I think you can hear that over the construction noise in the background. I'll show you another one that I replaced on the port side for comparison purposes. Here's the other one on the port side, and it's all been replaced and new oil put in, and listen how quiet it is. No noise at all. I'm also in the process of rebuilding the brakes. When I took the bearings off, I noticed that the brake seals in the caliper around the piston, the dust boot, rubber dust boot, was rotted and broken off. So I've ordered the parts, and I'm rebuilding the brake calipers as well with all new parts. Okay, you can see the spindle is in great shape, nice and polished, no marks on it anywhere. So that's not the problem causing the noise. It's certainly a bearing, since that's all in great shape, which I knew was the case, but I thought I'd show you anyway. Well, today UPS showed up with the parts that I need to rebuild my calipers and replace my brake shoes, brake pads, I should say. I thought they were going to be ceramic pads, but it turns out they look to be identical to the original pads, which I do not believe are ceramic pads. Just for your information, again, this is going on my 2008 model Ranger Z20 Ranger Trail Bass Boat Trailer. And 2008 is the year when Ranger shifted their models, and their trailers are slightly different too. So depending on what month yours was manufactured, you may have some differences. In fact, when I called Ranger Parts to order the brake pads, they told me that they don't sell them, that instead the brake pads for my trailer are the same as a 1990 Chevy Cavalier, and that I could just go to any auto parts store and order the brake pads for a 1990 Chevy Cavalier. Well, I did that at Napa Auto Parts, and unfortunately, the brake pads were not the same. They did not fit in the calipers. So I went back to the drawing board. I did some research, found out that my brake pads from Tie Down were bought out by Dexter, and that Dexter uses a store in my original hometown of Newark, Delaware, interestingly enough, at a place called Trailer Parts Superstore, and that's where I ended up ordering the caliper rebuild kits and the new brake pads, which I'm going to show you now. So here is here's the location of the Trailer Parts Superstore information. It's part of Eastern Marine, easternmarine.com, and the telephone number for customer service is on here. It's 1-800-453 800-453-7379. Again, that's 800-453-7379. They're located in Newark, Delaware, and they take orders from their website directly, or you can call them and place the order. And here's what arrived today, and it's my caliper rebuild kit. I got 2 of these, and it's got the seals inside, new pistons. It has new guides for the pins also. I'm not sure if I'm going to install them or not. Depends on how hard it is to get the old ones out. My old ones look perfect, so I'm not sure I'm going to change them out. And then here are the brake shoes. So here's the brake shoe that fits on the inside of the caliper. If the bracket on the back fits inside the piston, right, like that. Snaps in place, and it is identical to the old brake shoes that came out of mine. So fit is not going to be a problem. They're identical. And so that's what they look like. Okay, I tried gently tapping these in to push out the other bushings, and they didn't come out. And in comparing the tightness or looseness of the fit of the slide pins in the bushings, it looks to me to be very equivalent, very much the same amount of space. So I don't think they're worn. So I'm opting to not change these bushings. If someone knows a good way of pressing these out or pushing them out without messing up the new ones, I'd recommend going for that. But these appear to be quite in good shape, so I'm going to go ahead and just leave those in. I've cleaned up the inside of the piston area, and there's still the original O-ring in here, which I need to remove, which I'll go ahead and do now by gently inserting a small screwdriver and try to pry that out. There we go. And there's the old one. I'm going to clean it up and save it. These are square gaskets, and I will replace it with the new one after I verify it's exactly the same diameter, and then I will lubricate the new one with some brake fluid. I'm not going to use any oil. You know, some of the other videos I've seen, people use the slide pin lube or oil to put on these rings, and in other ones I've seen them insist on using just the brake fluid. Well, since brake fluid is what pushes this piston, I am only going to use the brake fluid because I know enough about chemistry. I'm not a chemist, but I know enough about chemistry from all the science classes I've taken as a fisheries biologist, that I am not going to mix oil with brake fluid because bad things can happen and cause the rubber to deteriorate. So I'll use brake fluid to lubricate it a little bit. Once I get that groove cleaned out, I'll put the new one in, and then I'll lubricate it, and then I'll push the new piston in. Okay, here's the old square O-ring that was inside the caliper piston area. Here's the new one. Nice square cut O-ring. And yes, indeed, that's good news. It is identical in size. So I'm going to put the old one away so I don't get it confused with it. There's the new one, and I'll go ahead and insert that in there. And gently push that into the groove. I will lubricate it after I get it completely in. There we go. I'll lubricate the inside edge of that because it'll take quite a bit of force to push that piston back through past that O-ring. And of course that's why it's square cut, so that it won't roll when you push that in there. But I will lubricate that with some brake fluid first. I'll go ahead and change the other one as well while I'm at it. Get in here. I cleaned all the old rubber. There's the old one. I cleaned all the old rubber out of the groove in here on the other one. Now I got to do the same on this one. get rid of all that old leftover pieces of rubber so that the new one seats completely in this channel. I'll do that and then come back again. Okay, I got some DOT3 brake fluid, which is what this calls for. I put a little in the cap. I'm going to go ahead and put it on this ring now while I have good access to it. Get that lubricated. Put some inside the whole chamber here too. Get that all spread on. All right. Now, let's see if I can get that to fit in there and press in. Yep. There it goes. So that did the trick. Just that little bit of brake fluid allows it, I can feel it snap into place. Okay. I got it all to fit in there. So it's in pretty good. Go around again just to make sure it's in as far as it can go. There we go. Okay. Now, I'll go ahead and get the piston in. Spread some fluid on the piston. Set that over here, and we'll have to put a screwdriver in and get this worked in around the outside of the piston. I'm being careful because I haven't done this before, so I'm trying to be gentle. I don't want to break this O-ring, this rubber boot. And I'm not sure, it might have been easier to put it in, the piston in this first and then press the seal around. But I've seen other videos, and this is how they did it in the other videos. So I thought I'd try it this way first. Now I think I'm going to pull that back out and put it around, assuming I can. Well, that snaps in there pretty well. Let's try it like this. Well, rather than forcing you to painfully watch me figure this out, I'm going to stop the video, get it done, then show it back again, tell you how I did it. Okay, I got the ring seal back out by gently inserting a small flathead screwdriver into this groove around here and twisting a little to gently pry it up evenly on all sides. And that worked pretty well. So now I am going to try to fit this on beforehand, like that. Okay, now it's in the slot all the way around. Got that lubricated still. A little more on there, because this is going to have to squeeze past that other ring, O-ring. Okay, now I'll try to get this pushed in and past that ring. And I've seen other people do this on videos, and it was tricky because that ring inside gives a pretty good seal. So what I learned from watching them is that you want to get this started evenly and press down as hard as you can against there, but make sure it's even. It is. And then use the help of a C-clamp to help compress it back in from the center. So I'm going to go ahead and get that set up. And again, I got the bleeder screw open so that air that's behind this piston can escape as I compress it into the housing. Okay, got that in there, that on the back. Let's try to start compressing that. Yeah, there we go. Going right in. Got it started. I should be able to push it the rest of the way in by hand. Let's see if I can do that. Yep, pretty much. All right, take this off. Get the C-clamp off. That worked real well to compress that into the cylinder. And then I'll work that rubber boot gasket all the way down or all the way around the edge, make sure it's seated properly. Okay, now I got to get this the rest of the way back in where I had it before. Piece of cake. And I'll make sure I got this all in the right grooves. Where'd my little screwdriver go? Push this down a little too far. Get that back up there into the groove. Making sure it's completely in that groove at the end of the piston. And I'll test it with the air compressor in a minute here to push it back out and back in, make sure it retracts okay. Okay. Push that all the way in, all the way around. Looking pretty good. Okay, it's in there. Now I'll fire up the compressor and put a little air in through the bleeder right there. Like I say, it's open. I'll put some air in there, cause the piston to come up. I'll go ahead and put the C-clamp back on so that it doesn't go shooting out of there and come free of the gaskets. So I just want it to travel a little bit of distance. I don't want it to come flying across the shop. So I'll put this on and tighten it down just a little, leave enough room for it to move an inch or so. Little safety precaution. Okay, so that's in position. And I'll go ahead and fire up the compressor and get back to you here in a minute. Okay, well, I forgot a simple little thing that's causing me my problem. I'm trying to put air in the bleeder screw, but I forgot I have the open hole in the back where the brake line attaches. So I've got to tighten the bleeder screw back down and then just inject the hole through here. It'll work a lot better. So I'll get that bleeder screw tightened back down. By the way, the rebuild kit did not come with bleeder screws, so take care of the ones you got. Okay. And now I will put the air nozzle through where the brake line goes, which was where I should have been trying in the first place. Okay, I'm going to take I got the bleeder screw tightened down. I've got a rubber tip nozzle on my air compressor hose, and I'm going to go ahead and insert that in and get that, see if we can get that piston moved back out. There it goes. Okay, real simple. Now, good thing I had the C-clamp on there because it really wanted to shoot out of there. And now I got to get it back in place and get the rubber boot back in the groove on it because the rubber boot sleeve came out. Actually, what I should just do is compress this back in. Get that back out. And get that rubber boot back in the groove again. There it goes. Pretty simple. Get that back in. Make sure it's fully in now all the way around. Okay, I'm going to get it to move one more time, just a little bit. I'm going to tighten this up closer this time so that it only travels about 1/2 of an inch, let's say. What I want to do is I want to make sure that the piston retracts when the air pressures let go. Okay, so there's tight. I'm going to loosen it up just a little bit. And go to my brake line hole. There we go. Okay. Boot stayed on all the way around. Perfect. Okay, now that the piston and seals are in, time to mount the brake shoes. Going to do the inside one first, which has the 3 prongs on it. Got to make sure these tabs go in the right place. Go into this, fit into the slot here. Line up the 3 tabs, and I guess I just press that in. There we go. Okay, so that's in there. Nice. Note that the curve matches the curve of the caliper. And now I'll mount the inside shoe. By the way, as you can see, I pressed the piston all the way in. That way this will slide over the caliper easily. Otherwise, you have to use a C-clamp like this and compress it before you can install it onto the caliper. So let's see if we can get this other one in position, right? These tabs go into these holes here. Try that like that. See if I can get this pushed over. Okay. May have to bend those in a little bit with my pliers, but let's try and get it to slide in first. There we go. Okay. Got it. One brake caliper done. Okay, got it in there. Got the tabs tight. Plenty of room to get the caliper in there now. Let's see if I can get this, pick this up. Let's see. Here's a caliper. I still need to put the new bearing in. And easily slides over top. So that's good. We're all set. Let's go ahead and build the other one. Okay, let's get the other caliper rebuilt. Got the rebuild kit for the caliper here. Open. Okay. Seal, inner seal, new piston, and we're going to leave the bushings. Okay. Excuse me. Get some brake fluid to lubricate things. Okay, gonna put some brake fluid on the piston. And a little bit on the ring, inner seal, square gasket, if you will. Slide that on. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Make sure I put a little bit of lube all in here. Okay, I'll put this gasket inside. Make sure it doesn't roll. Okay. Now it's inside. A little bit of lube on it. And we're going to lube this up, the inside, and we're going to slip it on first and then push the piston in and then seat the outer edge. Okay. Okay, slipped it on. Gonna move that inside ring into the groove. Okay, it's in there. I'm gonna make sure it's not rolled at all and get the bottom edge seated in there. Using my fingernail to push in between the bottom edge of the rubber gasket and the lip of the groove. I want to make sure that's seated in there firmly all the way around. Nice and even. Okay, there we go. Set that in there. Get it started evenly. That new gasket in there makes it a very tight squeeze, so I gotta use my D clamp to get it started, my C clamp. And again, I've got the brake line off, so there's an opening to let the air back out as I push this in. Okay, that's even. Now let's get the C clamp to help us push it in place. I'm just going to screw that in and use the screw to drive the piston past that inner gasket. Try to get it in the center so it does it evenly all the way around. Okay, now just going to screw this in and get the piston to go in. Doesn't take much force when you got a dead center and you lubricate that inside. Okay, remove this now. Brake fluid lubricant around the outer edge of the seal so I can push it in place. All right, now get that pressed in. There's the little metal ring inside this outer rubber part, and that's what I got to get pushed in. There are grooves on the inside of the aluminum housing, so that helps keep that sealed in place. Okay, I've got it all the way pushed in. Looking good. That's pretty much it. Now I can clean it up and go ahead and get ready to install it as soon as I get the brake pads put back in, and then get the bearings changed and get it on the caliper. Okay, I put the C-clamp back in, left about a half of an inch, quarter of an inch maybe, gap between the bottom of the piston and the edge of the C-clamp. I'm going to go ahead and blow some air into the location where the hose, brake hose, attaches to the caliper. I've already closed the bleed screw so that air won't escape out there. I'll use a rubber nozzle and go ahead and do this. Hopefully I can do this where you can see. I just want to check the piston movement, make sure it's moving evenly. There it goes. All right, perfect. Hope you're able to see that. But it popped up, seal stayed in place all the way around, so that's good to go. That's good to go. I'll go ahead and move that back in a little, and then take the C-clamp back off and put the brake pads on. Okay, make sure I clean off all the brake fluid off my hands. Get my inner brake pad, the one with the triangular attachment. Get that lined up. Make sure I get this all lined up properly. Get the tabs in the right place. Go. Okay, got it snapped in, looking good. Now to get the other shoe on. This one was the one that gave me more trouble because these tabs are pretty stiff. ahead and get that lined up like that. Get these tabs in these holes. You know, I wonder up there. Oh, look at that. Went real well that time. Okay, got it all ready to go. All right, Ranger Parts sent me a replacement bearing. So I replaced the inner and the outer bearings and the seal and the races inside again. And now you can hear the difference. It is now quiet. Thank goodness. Okay, so strange, but sometimes even when you put new bearings in, they can be bad, and that's why it pays to check and don't settle for noisy bearings. Time to get the brake caliper replaced on my starboard rear wheel. As you can see, I got the bearing replaced and it's nice and quiet. Nice and smooth. Put some brake clean on. Get all that white cleaned up. Make sure all the oil is off of my rotor. Got a little bit of fine surface rust on there that'll come right off. Both sides of the rotor. Get a little more. Brake cleaner. It's a lot harder working on your brake calipers when you don't have this up on a lift where you can get to it easily. I'm going to have to lay on the ground, and this particular design that Ranger used at the time, back in 2007, 2008, is not the easiest to get the brake caliper back on, because there's a nut that goes right in this space here, and my hard part's going to be getting that nut in position, getting the slide pin screwed in from this side through the caliper, and then it'll protrude through this plate, and then I have to get the nut threaded on and locked in place. And that's really difficult. Took me a long time to do it on the other one, just because I didn't have thin enough fingers to fit in there. Okay, they're ready. And as I say, there's my caliper with the new shoes in place. That's going to end up getting put into place like this, getting the slide pins put in. I'm not going to put this in yet, just except for to hold it in place, but these are the slide pins. Now get that, had some thread lock put on there from before. I'm going to get that broken loose. Just for positioning, I'm going to stick this in now. And then this will have to go in between there, and that's where I have a problem, getting my hands and fingers in there. In fact, I just lost it already. I'll have to get it back out of there. I'll get a small screwdriver to help me get my fingers on it. Okay, there. That worked. Just put it over there. Okay, I put both slide pins in just to make sure I got everything lined up properly. I haven't greased them yet or put Loctite on the threads yet, but I will do that now. I've got the bottom pin in just to keep this all lined up, and I'll go ahead and get the, oh, just messed up my alignment. Let me tighten up that bottom bolt a little more. Let's see if we're still lined up here now. Yep, okay. I'll take it back out. Hopefully it'll stay in place in alignment. Nope, okay. Well, we'll just deal with it like this. Get my Loctite. Put the Loctite on. Whoa, when it rains it pours. Okay, get my grease, silicone grease. A lot of different styles out there. People recommend different things. I don't have I'm not an expert, so I can't tell you which is the best. I can only tell you what I got and what I'm going to use. And that's this Photo Caliper guide pin grease. It's designed for it, so let's go ahead and slather that on. Oh, we've got a little bit of the Loctite running down. Clean that off. Over there, I'm going to use it again. Okay, go ahead and put this in. Line it back up and get it started. Alright. Getting the slide pin screwed in to this plate right here. That's the first step. And when I start getting it through, like right now, I'm going to back off a little bit because I got to get the nut in there, and that's the hardest part. Try to have it protrude just enough that I can get the nut to fit over the top of it and start to spin it on. And this was a lot of trouble for me on the other side. See if I'm getting any better at this. So, trying to use a screwdriver to help get it in place. And I wish my fingers were thinner. You can just get a turn or two onto these threads and get it started. It'd be okay, no problem then. Hey, there we go. Was able to get it spun on. All right. Good deal. Now I can tighten this bolt. And then I can get the wrench, tighten the nut. Okay, I'm getting there. All right. There we go. Now with that Loctite, it'll hold it on there well, and the slide pins will slide back and forth. Okay, now I can go ahead and take the bottom slide pin out and get it greased up, and the Loctite put on it. Then I'll have to go through that same process with the nut, but while laying on my back and working from the underside, which is going to be tough for me and impossible for you to see. Okay. Put my thread lock on. Don't need that much, it just came out that way. All right. Silicone grease. Stuff is really get this set on the pin. See if I can get that nut spun on. I know you can't see it. All right, gotta thread it. Got it started. Okay, tighten this bolt. Okay, slide pin's tight. Now I'll get the backing nut tight in here. There we go. Good. See if I can bring the camera around. All right, let's see. So here's the guide pin, slide pin that I got in place and tightened, and now I'm trying to get this nut tightened. Not a lot of room to work when you're not on a lift. Slide the slide pin away. This bolt, it's just or nut is a retaining nut. Keep the slide pin from vibrating out. That would be a bad thing. Alright, that should hold it with thread lock on it. Okay, both are in. Got that done. Well, I can work on getting my brake line reconnected, and then I can bleed the brakes. All right, gotta reconnect the brake line there. It's got a 5/8 inch bolt through the brake line, and make sure you don't lose the copper washer that goes in between the bolt and there. Thread it on by hand at first. Get it in place. There we go. Five-eighths inch wrench. There we go. All right, it's on tight. Let's go ahead and check my bleed screw. Start off with it closed. Okay, so looking at my boat here, it looks like my junction for the brake line is right there. So this brake is close as the shorter hose. The other brake line goes all the way over to that other wheel, so that's the furthest one away from the master cylinder. So that's my furthest one. So we take care of the furthest one first. So I'll go over and bleed that one first, but I'm going to first pump out the old brake fluid. I'm going to make sure that one's closed all the way, then I'll pump out the brake fluid and then put new brake fluid in. Okay, I'm going to start bleeding the brakes. First I'm going to pump out the old fluid. I've got my old brake fluid canister here. I'm going to try to pump the fluid back into that canister so that I remember what's inside of it till I can get it disposed of at the auto store. First thing I got to do is use a screwdriver and pry up this plastic cap. Okay, I'm going to dry that real good before I put it back on. Get some water grip pliers. Be right back. Cap loosened. Over there. Go ahead and get the moisture. Want to get all the moisture away. Brake fluid absorbs water, I'm told, and don't want any water in my brake system. Turn that over. Clean this up around it before I take the cap off. I've got the tongue jack lowered as far as it will go so that the tongue of the trailer is lower than the brakes for two reasons. One, I'm going to pump the fluid out of here, and it's almost all gone because of having the lines disconnected in the back. I drained a lot of it at that point. And let's see here. Little rubber extension came off. Stick that back on again. There we go. I'll set that down. Careful, nothing gets inside here. There we go. I made a homemade, took a sprayer, attached a tube to it, some aquarium tubing, and then upsized it to some rubber tubing that will fit over the bleed nipples. But I'm going to stick that in here, see if I can get any more fluid out. It's already mostly drained out. Yeah, I think we're good to go there. Already drained, already got it. Okay, go get my brake fluid and fill that up. Okay, I'm going to replace the brake fluid with this Lucas synthetic brake fluid, DOT3, which is what the Ranger trailer calls for. So I'll go ahead. Set that there for now. The brake fluid is very corrosive, so you want to be careful. Okay, I've got it pretty full. I'm going to put the cap back on so no moisture gets in. And I'm going to cover this so nothing drops in there. And then I'm going to go back and start bleeding the brakes. There's a million videos how to bleed brakes, so I'm not trying to give a comprehensive video here. I'm just showing you the process I'm going through and hopefully filling in some of the gaps that some of the other videos don't cover.